how are job gaps on a resume perceived? Say like a year or two between jobs. I've heard that they are sort of a red flag because it gives off the idea that, quote unquote, did this person struggle to find a job because there's something off with them, end quote. So basically, is this a good thing, lots of different jobs, or a bad thing, lots of different jobs?
Oh, Brent, I could tell a lot of stories. We don't have much time. I literally hired someone in Alberta many, many years ago who had job gaps because she'd had 2 children. And so she took time off to raise her kids.
Sure, as she should.
Right. Meanwhile, in another office, we had someone almost identical who had claimed the same story, but she had been in jail those 2 time periods.
Oh, boy. I got a completely different story, right? One's making a sacrifice of her career to take care of her family, which is absolutely should be her choice if she chose to do so. And the other one is obviously a little bit more of a red flag.
Yeah. So look, I think no matter what it is, you have to have the information to cover the gaps. People are going to make up their own mind when they see those gaps. But I would cover it in the cover letter with whatever you were doing during those. I took a sabbatical. I went, travel Europe and Asia for 6 months, and it was amazing.
Okay,
and I've come back so whatever it is, you can handle it.
But you put that on your resume, in other words, if you feel like you can fill in those gaps, make sure that you fill them in some way, like where there's some sort of answer to that question mark that people are naturally going to have when they see the gap.
Yeah, you could put a gap: sabbatical, travel to Asia for 3 months, backpacking, whatever. I'm like, oh, now I get what the gap's about, right?
Yeah. Or you check the police database for criminal records.
Yeah. But again, a lot of these things are very subjective. Studios will make up their own mind. People read into things all the time, right? So there's no perfect answer for that. But I think if it's asked in an interview, let's get dial us into brass tacks. Someone's in an interview and said, "What did you do between then and that?" Mm-hmm. Well, I was, applying at a bunch of places and just couldn't get in for a while. So, don't make something up. I would find that sort of challenging because it's a small industry and people talk.
Yeah.
So if you're really struggling to find a job, then I asked them, what did you do at the time? Well, I redid my resume. I polished up some stuff on my reel. I went back to some of the stuff that needed a little love, and I got prepped for the big game again. Right.
Yeah.
So
you could turn that question into a win, actually.
Exactly. Right. And, and I don't know, mentored some juniors, whatever it is but basically it's one of those things where you should be able to talk about it and not go, don't do that. Right. Whatever that gap is, be prepared to answer it. Right. It's literally like you're asking for, I'm trying to not draw analogies, but anyway, let's get on the next question. I hope that helps.
This is hard. This is hard. I know it's, I feel bad that I'm trying to turn this into like this factory of like answers. But it's just like, we have a lot and like people are dying. Some of these came up in past interviews and David and I took a crack at some of these and I don't know if we did a good job. It's just fun to get like the official stance from someone who does a job like this for a living.
But I always say lawyers would always say it depends, and that's their standard reply to a lot of this stuff. And it does depend on the studio and the people involved more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. Right? For sure. But I think we're gleaning a lot of light out of these answers. So
I hope so. I'm trying to keep it comical too. I hope everyone's not taking me literally and there's this part of this that is really important and we're treating it lightly, but in some very serious instances, you want to be prepared for these questions, for tough questions. You want to be able to answer them. Totally. And as I go back to dress rehearse these ahead of time so that you're not going, I should have, would have, not in front of someone. Don't do that, right? Yeah. It's you want to be ready for the date. You want to have your
exactly, and you know yourself too, right? Some people are really good on their feet, and they don't look like they're awkwardly pausing and looking for suspiciously looking for a good fill-in answer, as opposed to some people really require to like pre-think their answers so that they actually kind of because some of these questions you might not actually know the answer to. And I think you should if you're going into an interview because they're going to want to know. And so, it's a smart idea. I like the idea of mock interviews.
Brent, I had one the other day, a senior executive, like literally running a huge studio, got displaced during COVID last year. And then she decided, well, I've got enough of a package here. I'm going to take the rest of the year off and do something I've always wanted to do, which is unrelated to what I'm doing.
Awesome.
And that's her story. I'm like, what did you do last 8 months? And she said, I did the following. Like, none of that is what you've done for the last 20 years of your life. And she said,
exactly.
And now I'm refreshed. Now I'm ready to go back. Now I can do this again. But she said, beginning of COVID, I was burnt out, rocked to my core. I couldn't do it. And so she said, mentally, physically, it was a good thing to do. I feel fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.